All right, I have Guerrilla Ghost here with me this morning. Chuck and Marty from Guerrilla Ghost. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us, Craig.
Thank you, Greg.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to have you guys on. So your new album, I believe, comes out on Friday, the 31st.
It's true. That's correct.
It is titled "We Get What We Get What We Deserve." Will be the album, and this is actually a long player for you guys. It's just over 57 minutes.
Yeah, was it like 15 songs? It's our biggest production to date. We originally started as an EP, and then got extended just because I think I pushed Chuck, like, "Hey man, let's do an album. It's time to do another full length." So, and he rose to the challenge, and I was sitting on a stack of beats, so we just kind of extended the deadline over the winter and came out with an album.
Okay, so how long have you been working on this then?
Well, it's hard to say. Like, Chuck's writing usually happens at the end of the process, but
Mhm.
the instrumentals have been kind of compiled. Like, some of the older instrumentals might almost be a year and a half, 2 years old, and then some of the newer instrumentals they were probably completed like maybe a month or two before the album was done. So
Okay.
it's just kind of it's the only way we could gather that much material. It just takes so long to
Right.
work on and mass and finesse and everything.
So yeah, and I guess Chuck, for your vocals, one of the things I noticed listening through the album is you have, a lot of the vocals seem very timely. Not just to the pandemic, but also to, the political atmosphere and the Black Lives Matter movement that, has really risen up here recently. So how long have you been working on vocals for this?
Probably pretty much from the first couple instrumentals that Marty had sent me via Dropbox, pretty much up until a couple months ago when we had sent the album off, for the post-production and the mastering. Usually for me, when I'm writing the lyrics, I start with melodies and hooks or choruses or catchy parts first, and I will have those in my head. Maybe I'll do like a rough recording on my phone or something like that, and I'll just constantly listen back to the little melodies that I'm humming, or if it's like do 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 or something like that, and I'll just constantly listen to that, and I'll just compile my lyrics from there. And I usually go into it also with a rough subject or idea of what I want the song to be about, and everything will just get hashed out over time, whether, depending on what I'm reading or what I'm watching, what's going on in the world, different opinions or topics I may get from Marty, and acclimate that to, each individual song, and eventually come out with a finished product.
And some of the demos that you did, like, they changed by the time we did final versions of them, like even just switching out like song titles and things. Like, the one thing Chuck will do is he'll change something like the day we record it finally. So I'd say that his lyrics are probably constantly in flux up until they're committed.
Yeah. And I guess, one of the things I've also, I think also on this album, and you guys have been doing this through the course of your career as working together as a band, but this album seems to take that, that you guys gelling together as, a producer and a lyricist and a vocalist. And, this album, I think, just takes that 2 or 3 steps beyond where you guys were. It just really, really feels like on this album, you guys were in lockstep on everything you were doing. The vocals flow with the music really, raises the lyrics and the vocals up, and it really fits together really well.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I think a lot of that is probably just the fact that we've been, I attribute a lot of to our gigging, because we played so much. Like last year, 2019, we played 22 shows, which maybe doesn't sound like a lot, but like none of that was touring. That was, you know, weekends, hashing it out on the weekend. So I'd say a lot of our, and then the year before that, I mean, I don't remember how many exactly, but it seems like we just kept doing more and more shows every year. I'd say that the new material is probably informed a lot by our live show. Like even the way I produce has some of the stuff that we do in our live show. And then, I don't know, I think maybe just spending all that time together too. And just writing, just all the writing. I mean, I was checking our, one of our Spotify playlists today that has every song that we have on streaming services. And the new album isn't even out. We've got 52 songs on there, which is a lot of material. The most material I've ever done with any other band or musical output. So I think it's just, we put in the work, you know?
I think it's definitely heavily informed by our live shows, by what Marty said. I think as a duo, we realized that songs that we had previously done, where they work in the studio, we couldn't necessarily execute that verbatim live. So for this record, we wanted to take a more simplistic approach in terms of the performances on both of our ends. So it'd be easier to execute live, and therefore we can further manipulate them for a more one-of-a-kind experience whenever, you know, live performances do come about, or when we start doing our live stream performances. Each time we play a certain song, it's going to be different when you hear it because we're more streamlined in our approach. It sounds on this record like there's more layering, but to me personally, it's a more stripped down approach and very easy for us to execute, like I said.
Does, for you on the vocal side, Chuck, does that work where, you know, you're just trying to lay your vocals, you know, the vocals out linearly, or, you know, and maybe not have as much layering on that? I guess how does that taking more of a live approach affect, you know, your writing?
I definitely tried to make these songs lyrically and vocally, performance wise, for the most part, like a more linear process, and then add the layering as we go along. But a lot of the different vocal layering that you're going to hear is things that Marty is either looping or distorting or pitch shifting or something to that effect. So it becomes more or less one of his instruments to manipulate rather than me trying to perform it. And that's how, like I was saying, when we originally started recording, you know, I'd have 2 layers of screaming in a right channel, 2 layers of screaming in a left channel. There'd be 2 different center lane vocals going on. And like this time around, if we were going to do something like that, it would be previously recorded. So that way it becomes another instrument instead of the performance aspect of it.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting. Yeah. And I did notice, you know, you still do a fair amount of screaming on this album, but it doesn't, it's not as like up front. I think it seems to also kind of be more, the screaming seems to be more about creating the atmosphere rather than just, you know, that raw aggression.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of like sprinkles on a cookie.
Yeah.
You definitely hit the nail on the head with that one. Yeah, it's more atmospheric, or when a lot of our songs tend to build almost like a roller coaster. So in instances when you do hear me screaming, or you hear like the more chorus vocal effects, the harmonies and things, it's meant to convey the apex of that emotion or that point of the subject matter in the particular song. Whereas everything else, most of what I'm saying is just meant to be, you know, dead center and hit home. And the record is very in your face, but I tried to take a not so in-your-face approach with how I delivered, more like a conversation. Whereas the conversation may be very angry and heated, you know, it's still more of a conversation and willing to learn and hear any valid points from the other side instead of just screaming my point at someone.
No, I think that's a really apt description of the way the vocals and the lyrics work on this record. Is, you know, that it's still a very, you know, your vocals are still, I don't know if aggressive is the right word for it, but I mean, they're still very pointed. But yeah, they're not up in your face necessarily, where you know, in order to really get the emotion that's coming through, and in order to get the, you know, get the meaning behind them, you really have to kind of dig in and listen. And it's going to, you know, I think it, you know, and this is a good thing in my mind, is you have to, you know, you're going to have to come back and listen to this record several times to really pick everything out, you know, and that even goes, I think, to the instrumentation and the way all the beats were put together too.
Yeah, a lot of layers. I know one thing that we intentionally did, and this was kind of to enhance our ability to eventually play this live, which is 2020 live music doesn't really exist unless you're talking a live stream, which we are doing a live stream this Thursday on the 30th via Cactus Club Vimeo. Is anytime we brought in like one of our featured vocalists from our last record, Mario Lanza and Ashley Kamikaze, we had them do more of the melodic backups, which is something that I can then trigger and manipulate live. I do a lot of live looping and cutting when we play live, versus the last time we did a record and those guys were on it, we couldn't perform those songs live because there were main passages that required them to perform. So we just use them more of like as part of our palette and our toolkit to keep with our sound, but then also make stuff that we could reproduce live, because then we're just, you know, triggering it, you know, like a sample. So that was something that we did very intentionally on this record. So if there are features, it's usually rap features, but there's more songs that we can play in a live atmosphere without depending on others.
Yeah, the Seventh Level, which is the first song on the album, really kind of jumps out to me, that where you have the lady vocalist is singing in the background and singing some of the melodies on, I think, the chorus, but it does sound like more, you know, it's kind of more in the background. And maybe background isn't right, but it sounds, you know, I guess, you know, your description, you can tell that the way you recorded it, it's set up to be more of an instrument, maybe part of the instrumentation rather than vocals.
Yeah, definitely. That was an intentional approach this time around. Just because sometimes it's hard to, I think for our release show last time, we were able to get a lot of the people that were on the last record to come and perform with us. And it's been a couple of years, and there's still songs on that record that we weren't able to do live because we weren't able to, like, we tried booking shows with Foxface, and I think there was one show that were like, oh, we're going to perform this stuff, and then they had to back out of the show or whatever. It didn't work out. So that's still a song that collaboration we haven't been able to do live, which is a bummer when you have to play, you know, a year and a half on the same album and you can't pull everything off the album and perform.
Yeah, it was definitely something that we learned, wanting to be able to perform the majority of the work that's on this album, is to figure out ways we can do that without having said performer or vocalist there. And, you know, the pre-recorded vocal manipulation from our standpoint was the only option. It's going to allow us to branch out more and maybe reach different audiences, or have different songs reach people that they might not necessarily have before. Because this album definitely has a lot more vocal performance features on it, and we'll be able to pull off the majority of this material on live stream or when live performances come back around. Whereas on the last record, like Marty said, we weren't able to do that.
So speaking of vocal features, you do have a number of guests on the album. Probably most notably is Cool Keith.
Yeah, that song's been getting a lot of traction. Our Spotify numbers have been going through the roof just in the last couple of days, which is pretty wild. A lot of positive feedback. It's a cool song. He didn't phone it in either. He got in and got to work, and I contacted him probably about a year before we actually did it. But once we had to go into lockdown, we spent the band fund gearing up Chuck's house for some recording equipment to be able to finish the record. And at the same time, Cool Keith had been saying, "Oh, I'm doing features in the studio," and I was like, "Oh, perfect timing," because I already talked to him about this, and so it just worked out. And I think from the day that I said, "Okay, we're ready to do it. Here's the song. Here's the concept," he turned it around in like 3 days. And 3 days later, I was mixing what would become the final version of that song, which was super cool.
So Chuck, did he have your vocals for the rest of the song to get the lyrical, kind of the lyrical content and the direction of the song?
No.
Not
at all. He was given the concept of the song, and I believe a rough version of the chorus.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
And
because I remember there was some FPO lyrics in place, or recordings in place at the end where there's the female vocal. I think when I gave it to him was still your demo vocals in there, which didn't sound great. They were just, auto-tuned just to like, this is meant to have a vocal here, but it was not anywhere near finished. I don't even think the beat was finished. I always mix the beat alongside mixing the vocals in case the vocals inform the instrumental, and I kind of work back and forth. So I like to leave that open. So yeah, after he recorded, I kind of remixed the beat almost entirely.
Yeah, and I definitely tidied up my verse a little bit. I know giving it to him blank with just the hooks and the melodies and things like that was meant, like, I don't want to force any competition or trying to do any one-upmanship. It's more or less just giving him the beat and letting him do what he does, and then I do what I do, and then we listen back to it and be like, okay, well, we both complement each other very well, and we were both touching on similar topics without really knowing what each other was going to do. I didn't want anyone, I hear a lot of times where hip hop or rap artists will, when they do features or collaborations, and they'll throw beats back and forth, and somebody will have their verse or whatever already on there, and the next person will try to one up them, and then the first person will get that back, like, oh, their verse is way better than mine, so I'm going to re-record what I already had on there, and it just causes a lot of unnecessary friction. We didn't want any of that. We just wanted like a true raw product, as close as we could get to being in the studio with him and recording it at that time.
Well, that's very cool. It's really great to see that you got, you were able to get a feature like, from an artist like Cool Keith. And yeah, I hope it continues to get you guys new listens. That's really a great addition.
One of the things that made a whole lot of sense about reaching out to him is we were able to open for him a couple of years back in River West at the now
public house show.
Yeah, where the cops came and busted it up and shut it down three songs into his set. That was probably the most receptive audience we've ever had. because Cool Keith fans are kind of all over the place. They like weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they could be metalheads, they could be folks in the rap music. I mean, he just did a record with Thetan, which is a grindcore band. So his fan base is just all over, and those folks, like, they liked what we were putting out there. So it just made sense to tap into him as a creative force, but also, like, you know, obviously we're gonna get some attention from his fan base, and that was probably the most unexpected result of playing with him. Was like, wow, these guys really get us, and they're into us.
Right.
So yeah, it just made sense.
Well, yeah, that's great. And you've got a couple of other features from Armstrong Ransom, Wreck Riddles, and again, you've worked with Carnage the Executioner before as well.
Oh yes.
Yeah, the last song is actually the Hecatome crew. Those are all folks that we know from just gigging and whatnot. But that's all of the folks that are in Hecatome, Carnage, Katana, Denku, who's local here. He's put us on a lot of shows, and he's such a good lyricist and such a good performer. And after gigging with those guys, and I've known Carnage for like 15 years, he put me on the crew. And then once we started playing a few shows with him, he was like, oh, it just makes sense to put Chuck on. So that was kind of like our give back to those guys for giving us a little bit of unity within their crew. They've been around for 15, 20 years themselves. So
yeah, it's very humbling to be blessed into such a prevalent hip hop outfit. They're Midwest, Minnesota. Lots and lots and lots of talented artists in that crew, and it's just very humbling that they take a liking to the weird stuff that we do and we put out, and want to back us and give us opportunities that we might not necessarily have had before. It was very, very cool to be around such good energy. It's one of the things that makes doing this worthwhile, for sure.
Plus, in friending Katana, who raps on that song, we found out that she's an amazing vocalist. She's actually sings all over this record, and she does a small appearance on our last record. But she's been my secret weapon. I produced a track for her, and that was a really great working relationship. She's really good in the studio, really fast turnaround. I actually used her on this track that I did for MC Homeless. So she's kind of like my secret weapon. Anytime I need a female vocalist, she's usually game for the heavy stuff that we're putting down. So
everybody go listen to Katana the Don.
Yes.
Home, Minnesota. Yeah. Much love to her.
Yeah, she's great.
So you guys mentioned you're doing a live stream on Thursday, July 30th at Cactus Club?
Correct.
Yep.
It's going to be hosted by Cactus Club on their Vimeo.
Okay.
I know they started at Twitch, but they've moved to Vimeo because of the tools are better, and they don't have the tie to Amazon like Twitch does, which there's some political stuff, so they're taking a stance. And we're going to have the homie Hot Science open up for us. He's going to be doing some synthesizer worship, which is rad. I love that dude as a producer. He was on that electronic comp that was on Triple I and did a remix for us, and was also supposed to play our last release show but wasn't able to do it. So now we're able to have him finally jump on a show with us, which would be great. Looking forward to it. We're actually going to rehearse for the show later tonight, so you might see a snippet of one song. I think we might just try to push one song to like Facebook or Twitch or something tonight. So
very cool. And then the day after that, Friday the 31st, the new album drops, which is We Get What We Deserve. It'll be is it going to be on your Bandcamp? I assume on the Triple I Industries Bandcamp page and streaming platforms.
Yep. You can get it through Triple I or Guerrilla Ghost Bandcamp, but all the streaming platforms. First thing in the morning on Friday, I'm gonna
Do you have any plans for a physical release?
We did make a CD edition. It's so long we couldn't fit it on one slab of wax,
Right.
and doing a double vinyl is kind of crazy at this point because we're still sitting on a few 12 inches from the last pressing. So yeah, and I think too with electronic music and rap music, I think streaming just seems to be the playground, that sandbox everybody's playing in. So we're trying to embrace that and not get so stuck on formats, because trying to look forward to the future. I mean, I love vinyl. I love collecting vinyl, but honestly, I mean, it's more of a vanity thing to make sure that you have a slab of wax that's going to survive for, many years beyond after I'm gone. Hopefully that record will still be around. CDs, not so much, and streaming, I don't know, until the internet gives out, whatever.
So you guys have been, I know you've got a brand new record coming out, but you guys have always been very busy, like even between, releases, releasing singles and working on a bunch of other things.
Oh yeah, we got a 2-song. I don't know if we should leak it, but we got a 2-song single coming out 2 weeks after the album.
Oh.
and Chuck's already sitting on a stack of beats. I'm working on maybe a Tron Jovi cover, and I don't know. We're working remotely is weird, but we're gonna make it work. So the next full on release will probably be something that we've done entirely remotely.
Okay. Wow. So your performance, will you be in separate places for the performance?
No, we're going to actually be at Triple I HQ, AKA my house.
Right.
Because there's too much latency to be able to try and have two people in 2 different locations. But we're going to sanitize. I'll probably wear a mask because I don't need to scream into a microphone. So we'll do that.
We need the energies together in the room to create that product,
Right.
What's the term? Form like Voltron? I believe that's what Marty always used to say.
Form like Voltron, yep.
Yeah, we need to be together. But everyone, please be rest assured that we will be taking all the necessary precautions so we don't potentially infect each other and therefore, our respective families and friends. This is something that we do take very seriously, but we also take the music very seriously. So,
right.
Yeah. I think anytime you get together with somebody outside of your bubble, you have to take a little bit of a risk, but we'll be taking some precautions and stuff like that too. I mean, Chuck needs to stay healthy so he can be, making food to serve to folks, and that's a whole nother, that's a new thing. Chuck's going back to work, or has been back to work. I mean, I've been sitting at home, so
yeah, that's been a luxury I guess I've had as well, is being able to work from home. I think very grateful to have a job, but yeah, like to be out there and in the front lines is a whole another aspect to all this. That
scary.
We're not taking
it serious. It's very scary.
Yeah, no, exactly. I don't think we're giving enough credit to everyone who is putting themselves out in danger essentially. So the new record comes out on Friday the 31st. It's titled "We Get What We Deserve." It'll be up on the Guerrilla Ghost and Triple I Industries Bandcamp page and on all the streaming platforms. Guerrilla Ghost will be performing on Thursday. What time?
The show kicks off at 8 with Hot Science, and then we'll be shortly after. So I think we'll probably be on at like 8:30, 8:45. And
that'll be on the Cactus Club Vimeo streaming show.
Yeah, vimeo.com/Cactus Club MKE. All
right, very cool. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
And yeah, the new record sounds great. I'm just, every time I hear you guys, I'm amazed at your evolution, and you just keep, taking steps forward, kind of keep taking steps forward. And this record, I'm kind of gushing here, but you guys really just sound on the same page so much. So very cool stuff.
Thank you, Craig.
It means
Appreciate
a lot.
it.
It means a lot. And you've definitely
Thanks, guys.
been there from the jump, so
Yeah.
you remember all the horrible stuff that we put out.
Yeah, appreciate your support along the way, and the station too. So can't thank you enough.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, guys. We'll hear some more tunes from Guerrilla Ghost coming up next.
All right, thanks.
Milwaukee.